In this video, we'll be talking about semicolons. And semicolons have become one of the most feared types of punctuation. However, this does not need to be the case, because a semicolon really only has two functions, and we'll be talking about both of those functions today. The first one is connecting, and a semicolon connects by joining two complete sentences that are closely related. And we'll go into detail about what we mean by closely related later. The second thing that a semicolon can do is divide, and a semicolon divides by separating lists with long elements. And this is one of the lesser known uses of a semicolon, but we'll cover it as well just so that we can learn everything. So just to review, the two things that a semicolon can be used for are connecting and dividing. Now when we say that a semicolon connects two complete sentences, we are of course talking about independent clauses, or sentences that have a subject and a verb at least. So whenever you use a semicolon, you want to make sure that on either side you have an independent clause. And this is the number one rule that people forget with semicolons, is checking to make sure that both sides have a complete sentence. Alright, so here we have an example of two complete sentences, and you'll notice that they each contain a subject and a verb, and we're going to remove the period at the end of the first sentence and go ahead and insert a semicolon. Alright, so now we've connected these two sentences, and the only thing left to do would be to lowercase the t on the second sentence. But one thing that I want you to notice about the use of this semicolon is the relationship between these two sentences. They're closely related. And what I mean by closely related is that they deal with the same topic. And not only that, but the second sentence, or even second thought, completes or extends the thought that was expressed in the first sentence. So let me read these so that you get an idea of what I'm saying. The stick figures were cute. This is my first thought or idea. Now on my second sentence, I elaborate on that. I say the orange one was actually downright adorable. And so this is one reason why I might want to use a semicolon to connect these two sentences. And that would be to show that these sentences have a strong relationship, and that my reader can flow from the first thought directly into the second thought or extension without having to make these two separate sentences. Now I'm going to show you an example of where you would not use a semicolon, because oftentimes I think they're overused to connect sentences with no relationship at all. And so looking at this example, we see that the second sentence really has nothing to do with the first thought. In the first sentence, I'm expressing that I think these stick figures are cute. And in the second sentence, I'm talking about my future plans to be an artist. Now these are not as closely related as that first example I showed you. And so using a semicolon here would probably not be the best choice. Now I want to talk about some of the technical things involved with using a semicolon. And the first thing we already talked about, which is that you always lowercase the beginning of the second sentence. And this is because a semicolon is not a period, so these are not two complete sentences anymore. Once they're joined with a semicolon, this flows as one long sentence, meaning that you need to save the capitalization for the very beginning. Now the second thing that we need to talk about is transition words. Because a lot of times people want to throw in a transition word in addition to the semicolon. And so if you're wondering if you can use a transition word, the answer is yes and no. So let's first go ahead and talk about those words that you can't use. And these are often called coordinating or subordinating conjunctions. And these are pretty much all of your basic conjunctions. So if you're talking about and, but, because, yet, since, and other conjunctions like these, then the answer is no, you cannot use these with a semicolon. And that's because they are traditionally used with a comma. So if I were to insert the word and in here, the correct thing for me to do would be to take out my semicolon and put in a comma, because that's how we use coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. However, what you can use are adverbs or conjunctive adverbs. And the difference between these and the subordinating or coordinating conjunctions is that you can actually take them out and separate them from the sentence. And you do this with an extra comma. So words like however, nevertheless, actually, and in fact are all separated from the rest of the sentence with an additional comma. So when I insert them after the semicolon, it looks like this. Semicolon, in fact, comma, and then my second sentence. And so in this way, we can use transition words with semicolons, but this is only for words that are adverbs or conjunctive adverbs, and not for simple conjunctions like and or but. So now that we've talked about how semicolons connect, let's quickly cover how semicolons divide. And there's really only one way that they can divide, and this is in lists which already have components with commas in them. So if you're listing countries and cities, each individual country and city is going to have a comma inside it. London, comma, England. Paris, comma, France. And so to separate out each of these city-country units with another comma would make this confusing to your reader. And so that's why you insert semicolons instead. So we're just going to put one in between each of our 3 units. Now most lists don't already have units with commas in them, so you won't really need to use a semicolon in this way all that often. But it's still a good technique to know about in case you ever have a list that looks like this. So hopefully over the course of this lesson, you learn to not be afraid of semicolons, and that the use of a semicolon is actually pretty rare, because it is only used to connect 2 sentences with a special relationship, or divide lists that already have long elements. So hopefully you'll get the chance to use a semicolon correctly in some of your writing.